Ladies and gentlemen of the world, people of the internet, wherever you are, whenever you are, thank you for joining us and welcome to the Rex Reviews Podcast, the show where we discuss God, guns, and rock and roll. My name is Lou McCoy, and it's my sincere pleasure once again to be with you, broadcasting today from the middle of the Arctic Circle. By my side, as always, we've got the beautiful and talented Miss Casey Day. Say hello, Casey.
Hi, guys.
And of course, the legendary TiborasaurusRex.
Howdy, listeners out there. It's good to have you on board. Got a good show lined up for you today. I think you'll dig it.
One other thing I wanted to talk about today, Mr. Rex, is speaking of that YouTube, one of your biggest videos of recent was a response to Mr. James Yeager and about setting up a 338 Lapua.
Yeah, that's right. I actually watch his channel. He's one of the channels that I do. I don't watch a lot of YouTube stuff because I'm so busy just with my projects and stuff. But that is something that's been popping up on the side for quite a long time when I upload my videos is his videos. And so every once in a while, he hits on a lot of interesting stuff. He's really good with his close range game, his pistol and carbine stuff. He's pretty smart on that, actually. So he's been a person I've watched for a long time. And personality does kind of, I don't know, it's funny. So I like the energy level of that guy. So I did do the response to one of his videos. He was specifically asking people who have experience with 338 Lapua Magnums to maybe give some pointers on just basic rifle setup. So I did produce a response video to Mr. James Yeager, just kind of going over some real quick pointers on how to zero the rifle and how to configure the stock and adjust everything and get everything kind of set up for long-range shooting. And it generated a lot of interest, a lot of cool folks on his side of things too. I mean, he's got a big following. He's one of the big dogs on the YouTube when you talk about gun stuff. And he got popular for maybe some other controversial reasons because he's quite the character. If you watch his videos, he's a pretty high energy dude. So there's a lot of interest and a lot of discussion back and forth too on a lot of dudes who say, "Oh man, he's a terrible guy. He's gonna yell at you, or he's scary, or whatever," you know. So, and I haven't fully answered those questions yet, but we had a request maybe to do a short excerpt video maybe on my James Yeager Hypothesis.
Because you do have a theory here, do you not?
I always have a theory, and I'm very observant. I'm always keeping track of these different idiosyncrasies just socially in different folks and trying to see what makes folks tick and just keeping track of patterns because you know how I am. It's just one of those things that pops out in my brain. So I got my own hypothesis on that guy.
So
you want to get into it now? Is that what you're telling me?
Well, we were just talking about your conspiracy theory of the day, right?
Right.
So maybe it's not quite a conspiracy theory, but let's get into the James Yeager hypothesis because he is an intense dude and he generates a lot of enthusiasm from anybody who checks out his videos.
Yeah, he's definitely a high energy guy. So I would accuse James Yeager of being an unrepentant alpha male who has a lot of energy and is not scared of just completely laying it out there. That's a very abrasive thing to do nowadays because people are, there's a lot of sensitive folks out there. And it's just socially, like in his generation, I assume he's Generation X, one of the middle of that generation probably. It's a whole different mindset. So some of the older people don't understand that very abrasive nature, and some of the younger people don't understand it from a different point of view because it is very abrasive. He just completely lays it out there. If he doesn't like something, he will definitely say it. And he won't do it by being nice either.
No, sir.
And everyone has their shtick too, right? Everyone has their shtick and has to kind of lay out their character. And that's kind of what I gather mostly from him, honestly, to give you the honest assessment. He's actually a pretty nice guy. I did get the chance to briefly talk to him once. And he's a very nice, respectful gentleman type guy in person. But maybe that's if you cross him, you get a different deal too.
That's anything with any alpha males if you put them together.
That's actually very true.
If you have a field of mutual respect, then there shouldn't be any shenanigans.
Sure. And I suppose, and I don't follow a lot of this, but amongst the different YouTube channels, I hear through the grapevine and around the campfire that sometimes the different alpha males will kind of butt heads a little bit. And that's only natural in the business to compete, right? Mm-hmm. And like you said, any person who truly is an alpha male is going to be abrasive by nature and butt heads. And anyone who has a hardcore opinion on something is going to protect it very, very vehemently, right? But one of the things I do appreciate about it is, people can have their differences on style and whatever. And a lot of folks would maybe have accused him in the past. And I've watched videos like of people accusing him of being too rough around the edges. He had a video that got him a lot of subscribers. I think it was actually when they really threatened a big gun control bill that was talked like after one of those big mass shooting situations. And there's a huge push for this assault rifles ban. And they almost generated the energy, except a lot of people came out fighting hard. And he was one of them that early on, he made a video, and you guys can watch it. We're going to start shooting people or something. I don't remember what the name of the video was, but he came out and he had no problems using the colloquial English as we discussed earlier. He dropped a couple F-bombs and really shredded them guys and said, F that, we're not going to have this. And he went into it pretty hardcore. It's one of my favorite videos I've seen. It's pretty funny, actually. It's not a funny subject, but it's nice to see the electric light of liberty in people's eyes for them actually standing up. That's what fighting looks like, okay?
Damn straight.
And if there's something worth fighting for, you got to sometimes get mean. And I actually think it's more of a loving thing to bark first before you start shooting, right? If you're quiet the whole time and act like a gentleman when someone's seriously trampling on your rights or threatening trampling on your rights, there is a measured response. And that measured response is to be kind of radical and yell and throw out that. That's where you see the F-bomb is supposed to be used for special occasions. And when they're talking about dismantling the liberty preservation mechanism of the whole country because of whatever crisis they generated this time or whatever it is, I don't have a problem with a guy telling it like it is. Like, if you guys do this, we are going to do this. So don't do it. We need to be able to use our First Amendment boldly before we can pretend like we're tough enough to use the Second Amendment. And that's what I respect about Mr. Yeager. He has no problems using his First Amendment, and he does it boldly. That shows that he actually has the kahunas, in my opinion, to actually back it up if it ever did come to a Second Amendment deal. A lot of people are talking, a lot of people are bending over backwards trying to be gentlemen. Dude, when it comes to tyranny coming around, like if you got a grizzly bear nosing its nose in under the tent, you know what I mean? You can't just be nice about it. And eventually you're going to have to stand up, right? You can't just let the burglar in and try to talk to him nice when the burglar's in your house ransacking your stuff, right? He's like putting a stereo in his big duffel bag and like clawing shit with a hammer. Oh, Mr. Burglar, I told you before, I really hope you don't wreck my living room. No, that's when you come out there and you say, get on the ground or I'm going to shoot you in the face with this 12 gauge. That's what you do when a burglar comes in your house at night, right? And you might not actually do it and you don't want to do it, but what you want to happen is that burglar to know for sure, do not threaten me with physical force because you're going to get in big trouble. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not giving anyone legal advice on how to treat burglars when they come to their house. You can only use deadly force when your life is under serious threat. But in the case of a tyrannical regime getting rid of the Second Amendment of the United States, that to me, being a student of history, is a threat of deadly force against me and everyone who I love. So I will not let them accomplish that. So I've made my political rant videos in the past, and some people don't like them because I don't have the same style as Mr. Yeager, but I rant as well. But you have to be able to speak up. And I respect him immensely for speaking up on those issues.
Damn right. And you come to the table with those political discussions, or any discussion for that matter, with that same amount of enthusiasm and just genuine humanness, because you're not trying to put up a front and you're just, like you said, telling it like it is.
Well, and I bet you $50, dude, if you took a time machine trip back to Boston in the 1700s when the British were throwing their weight around, and all the people down at the local pub at the, what do they call that place? The Green Dragon down there in Boston where they hung out like Sam Adams and all these guys. And they're having their little rants. I mean, these guys weren't being nice about it. They started a revolutionary war to kick the British's butts out of there. So if you would ever see what the founding fathers look like, and I'm talking about the guys at Concord and Lexington, the guys who put their money where their mouth is and actually created this greatest experiment in human history of liberty and like free country for 200 years. It's dominated the earth. Unfortunately dominated it. We shouldn't be dominating stuff, but you know what I'm saying? Like created this awesome country. That's the kind of attitude that made this country, is what I'm getting at. It wasn't the meek little, oh, I'm sorry, Mr. British man, don't push me around, I'm sorry, don't get me, wussy attitude. Like, it was a guy with a bald head and a beard yelling at stuff. That's okay. Or back in them days, they had them wigs, that they wore. That's only when they're politicians, I think. But they drank a lot of beer back in those days, and they yelled at a lot of British people before they ever had to have a war. So, but you have to go through that progression of force before you use force. You got to at least warn it. You got to say, hey guys, like, I'm a dog, I'm barking at you, I'm about to bite you on the ankle because I am now barking. That's my warning sign. What's worse is them dogs where you just walk in the house and just bites you without barking. You didn't even have warning. It's like, dude, why didn't you bark first, you know?
Well, and that kind of talks about the importance of the First Amendment, which has been really constricted a lot. I mean, you can't say that they're getting rid of the First Amendment, but it certainly seems like there's a path, that certain people are taking in order to, they want to start by taking away the First Amendment, and then you can take away the Second, and then the Third, and the Fourth, and the Fifth. And we've been going back and forth between the First and Second for a long time.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the difference between a country that is free and a country that is not free. And so people who stand up for what they believe by talking and by yelling and by truly communicating the reality of the consequences of what's about to happen, that is incredibly valuable. So in the gun community, when you have your guys that are hardcore, dude, I go to a lot of gun stores and a lot of people talk like that. And people are scared nowadays to even talk like that because they're scared that some undercover guy is going to have a microphone and they're going to hear you saying some radical stuff like, man, someone ought to do this, But honestly, that is the kind of talk that occurs. But back in the old days, that used to be called First Amendment type stuff. Now, I'm very measured with what I say publicly because, that's just my style. I'm kind of a measured kind of guy. But you do need that element in the body. In the gun community, the body of people, like there has to be that guy that just says it like it is, because that's everyone else is thinking that thing. They're just too scared to say it. That's the thing. Everyone was thinking that in the gun community before. And then when James Yeager said it, it resonated so well to where, you know what I mean? That's why he got such a following after that. I mean, that's not where he got his whole following, but he picked up a lot of subscribers from that deal because people are like, finally, someone who has the balls to stand up for what he believes in. So I respect it. And would I have said it in those exact words that he said it? No, because I have a different style, but that is definitely necessary, especially in a day and age where they're completely trying to circumvent all our rights, man, because it's way better that he says it and they quit what they're doing than nobody says nothing and they accomplish what they're doing. And then you have to have a war. And that's a terrible situation. I like the part way better where all the angry guys get up there and yell at them and they run away. I like that better than a war, okay? That's called a deterrent type situation. That's the whole point of the Second and the First Amendment, is to keep everyone in check so that we are free to tell the king, hey man, back off. Like, don't trample our rights. Do not tread on me. That's what that flag means.
And he may not be politically correct, but
thank God.
But he speaks from the heart.
Yeah.
You got to respect that.
Yeah, and that's the other thing, too. It's incredibly honest. I respect people, and that's why even when you're talking about religious stuff or whatever, a lot of the people that I find the most interesting and the most fun to follow are those who have zero brain-to-mouth filter, who are 100% gritty, rough around the edges, and real, because they're not putting on this false facade of BS that they've acquired from everywhere else. And it's like it's not been bought, you know what I mean? It's authentic. I like authenticity.
Amen. And people that are real to themselves and real with the world and present it like such, you got to respect that. And those are the stars that shine through the brightest, too, at the end of the day.
I think so. Yep. And like I said before, if you were to go back in time and meet the actual people who founded the country, I bet you they're all pretty rough around the edges. And reading what they said was more radical. And what they did was way more radical than what Mr. Yeager said. So if people are all butthurt about that little video, I don't understand that. It's like, okay, well, congratulations, man. Like, you need to read about the Revolutionary War, right? Because those guys they did stuff that was way more radical than that. You know what I mean?
Yes, sir.
And that's why we're here enjoying the red, white, and blue. So they can wave the flag around all they want with their shirt tucked in, acting like a normal person. And that's great. I mean, that's the style of most people. And I think that's what the meat of the country, really. That's why we're a good country. I think it's because people are very laid back and cool and collected. But there does need to be that element of people, the liberty teeth. We do need liberty teeth, people who are willing to stand up and say, yep, no, we're going to protect our territory, our rights.
To clutch that bald eagle of freedom, right?
Yeah, that's why they elected that guy with the yellow hair, because he's kind of like that too.
Let's not even get started. How about some questions and answers for this week, folks? Anybody want to do that?
So, on the email end, we got a lot of questions coming in. Again, we did take that little break over.
while she waits. Someone is dreaming, hope that she kills instead of leaving with me. 'Cause she's a minefield, she'll pot your body from your soul. Minefield, leave a big smoking hole.